Before we get started, we want to point out that if you are having suicidal thoughts or if you're in a dark place and thinking about taking action in that way, please reach out. There is a suicide or crisis hotline, 988. I've called it, and it's full of people who are great listeners, and they will listen. And they have specialty lines for veterans as well as civilians. 988, you can call them or text them.
Yes, and I want to piggyback off of that by saying today is a heavy topic. We do make some perhaps darker jokes about it at certain points, but for the most part, this is a pretty serious conversation we have with somebody who very nearly killed themselves, and the world is a better place that he didn't. But this is a serious one today. So if you're having suicidal thoughts, if you're feeling alone, please do not hesitate to reach out to somebody who knows you, who cares about you. 988 is an invaluable resource. There you go.
We're really lucky today to have our guest, not my friend, but Taylor's.
Well, now he's a friend.
He's my friend. Mike Dolloff. And he's currently, actually, where is he now? He just visited my neck of the woods, but I don't know where he's from.
He lives in the Pacific Northwest right now.
Ah, okay.
I can't remember if he's in Oregon or I think he's right like in the Portland, Vancouver area.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's a nice place.
Yeah,
Keep it weird.
Yeah, he's got beautiful pictures he posts on the old Instagram of pine trees and his kids running around, and it looks really lovely. Mm-hmm. Really, first off, Mike, it's really nice to see you. I don't think I've seen you in like 2 decades.
Dude, I know. We messaged and feel like I'm connected with you, but yes, it's good to see you as well, man.
Yeah, look at you. You're looking all delightful.
I have to roll into like corporate meetings, so I have to like I'm wearing sweatpants, of course, but like business up top,
Yes. Well, welcome to another exciting episode of the Emotional Men podcast. I'd just like to say, first and foremost, I'm an idiot. I feel so bad about this. I'm not going to talk about this the whole time, but we have a very special guest here, Mr. Mike Dolloff, who is a big muckety-muck, who's a lovely human being, who wears glasses and likes to drive and park backwards into parking spaces. He very graciously agreed to talk to us about a very sensitive topic today. And he said, yeah, I can do it at 7 as long as we're done by 8. And in my brain, I was like, doop-a-doop-a-doo, that means we'll start at 8 o'clock. Or doop-a-doop. So, killing it. Freaking killing it, dude. Here we are. Before we get into that, how are you guys doing?
Really good. It's Friday. Loving that.
Yes. It's hard not to be too happy. Pete, you're awful quiet. How are you doing?
I am doing well. My brain is actually full of things, not only for Mike, but switching back and forth in different aspects of my life. And now I'm in podcast mode.
What I'm really excited about is giving Mike such a great view of who we are as people and our capacity as professionals.
And that's why people tune in. This is what they pay for.
Well, I've listened to episodes. I have a strong sense of that already, for sure.
Oh, good. Yeah. Wonderful.
I forgot how dry you are, Mike. You're so dry.
We already have a reputation of being a huge cluster.
Just a huge mess.
A Charlie Foxtrot, as they say.
Yes. Well, I think first and foremost, let's kind of jump in so we don't waste any more of our good friend's precious time. Today's gonna be a pretty possibly intense conversation, but one that I feel very strongly about. Which I guess when I say that, I don't mean I feel strongly that I want to do it. We're talking about suicide today. I'm not saying that I want to.
Yeah, I feel strongly.
Get ready for just like a lot of really terrible, terrible, dark jokes.
Oh, man.
Not obviously immediately. That dead air is.
No, yeah. When you said get ready for dark jokes, and I was like, oh, shoot. He wants me to like start one right now? Like on demand. Get ready for dark jokes. Pete, to you. Like, crap.
Let me tell a quick story to lighten it before we get really deep into this, because Taylor, you and I met, and I was looking preparation for this, like when we met, you and I met 21 years ago, roughly, I think it was something like that. Mm-hmm. We were in Lithuania. We were in this like pretty hard scrabble coastal town. And the first thing I noted,
Klaipeda, baby.
Klaipeda. Yeah, so we were mission companions, serving mission for our church, mm-hmm. And I looked back at like, when was that? And I found the first thing I noted was a joke that you had told me. Of course, right?
Oh
This is
no.
so on brand. And I'm gonna tell the joke, adapt it for our context here on the podcast, but it was basically, this is what your joke was. Guys, I'm so glad to be on your podcast. I was gonna start my kind of monologue on this podcast with the joke that's so funny you'd make your hair fall out, but it looks like Pete's already heard that one.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
Coming out swinging. I appreciate
yes.
it.
I was really nervous you were going to tell my other go-to joke.
I didn't note that
Would
one
you like
down.
to
It's
hear?
probably inappropriate for my journal, so I just felt like I couldn't
Okay.
write it down.
Would you like to hear my other inappropriate joke or my other go-to joke? I guess.
I get the feeling that it already has momentum in your mind and it's going to come out anyway.
Yes,
It's
yes.
true
Just
that
let it
you
go.
can't stop it. Why did
Sorry.
the monkey fall out of the tree?
I don't know.
He was dead. If you ever need a good
Wow,
icebreaker,
that's really good. Well, Mike, we're glad that you're here with us instead of elsewhere.
elsewhere. So
I think I am as well. I think TBD.
Think so? I don't know. You said you were in sales, so I don't know if you are.
I am.
well,
Yeah.
you know what? Mike is actually very good at his job. I say that not knowing enough about sales to really say that for sure. But as far as I can tell, at least from LinkedIn and hearing Mike talk about it, it sounds like you're actually very good at it and enjoy it. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, yeah. According to me, I'm excellent at my job for sure. Very trusted
Wow.
source.
Good
That's
salesman.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, I
I'm
am.
sold.
I've the last probably decade, I've been like a business leader, sales leader, and so
Mhm.
it's been fun. So I've moved from sort of individual contributing to sales roles to leading teams and building teams, and that's been a really fun transition. But yeah, I'd like to think I'm pretty decent at it, and I work with great people that make it easy to go to work, so that's good too. I don't wake up with that existential dread and wondering how I can suffer through another 8 or 10 hours of work, you know? So
That's
I
good.
consider that a big win. Big win.
Yeah, well, I mean, given the topic today, let's kind of tee this up just a little bit. We were kind of setting up, Pete and I, what we want to talk about, and Pete said, "I want to talk about suicidality."
Mhm.
And for better or for worse, the first person I thought was, "Oh, Mike Dolloff would be a very interesting person to talk to about this." Let's set some quick caveats and understandings, though. Number one, talking about suicidality is not an encouragement. We're not trying to make suicide sound great at all. We're not big fans of it. I think about my experience knowing Mike, and I'm so glad that Mike did not kill himself. Spoiler alert, by the way, Mike tried to kill himself.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true.
yeah,
And the reason I think that the reason we can joke about it is the same reason we joke about any kind of adversity, is because you can look back on it and say, well, that sucked, and we don't take away the difficulty of people who are going through it right now, but it's quite a bit different, I think, when you're looking at it through the rearview mirror. Taylor and I have both worked with people who have struggled with suicidality, and but to the extent of actually attempting suicide, I think Mike
yeah,
has a unique perspective. So I only know it from a therapist perspective, and I have joked about it with patients who've seen it in the rearview mirror. So we kind of get this dark humor about it, but it's not because suicide is funny. It's because we laugh at tribulation past, and we
yeah. It's a
appreciate the
way of
growth.
it's taken the edge off of the thing. And I don't know if I've ever actually even said this. I have never tried to commit suicide, but I have been suicidal in my life. Long,
Hmm.
long time ago. In fact, I was reading my journal from when I was on my mission, and there are several points in it where I'm like, I just want to be dead.
Hmm.
Um, so as we go into this, let's kind of set the stage for different ranges of suicidality, right? Like as a therapist, if I have a client who's like, "Hey, I'm feeling suicidal," I don't immediately freak out. My ears perk up, but I'm not immediately like, "Ah." And there's a difference between ideation and planning. If someone says to me, I'm thinking about dying, my initial thought is usually they're telling me they just want to stop existing. Not that they like want to die, not that they have violent plans for themselves, but they're just kind of like, it'd be great is this could all just go away.
Yeah. To me, it's like having a toothache. So where everyone's had a toothache and you have this constant pain. In their case, it's emotional, but you have this pain in the toothache, and every dentist is telling you, hold on, we can fix it. Hold on, just wait, it'll pass. But those pliers in your workbench start looking better and better. And you're like, I just want to pull the tooth. Like, and then it'll all be over. All this pain of this stupid one little tooth will just all be over if I just pull the tooth. And everyone's saying, don't do it, don't do it. And your reason is like, yeah, I won't do it. They're right. But for some reason, you start thinking about the pliers. And and having suicidal thoughts doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pull your tooth. It just means you're thinking about it. So maybe, Mike, you could, I kind of want to know, did you experience a transition in feeling the pain of an emotional toothache that got so bad where you started to think about planning? Like, where was that transition for you between feeling constant pain and actually like behavioral activation?
And actually, even before we go that, Mike, could we even be so bold as just to have you tell us what happened? Your story as you went through it.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe I'll start with kind of the end state of like looking to act on these suicidal thoughts, and then I'll back up a little bit after that of like how did I get there, because I think both are helpful. But like, cut to the experience part of it. It was like, I mean, this is going back like 25 years, right? So I'm 18-ish years old. Some of the details are definitely lost to time. Like, Taylor and I were messaging yesterday. I was like, I don't remember even telling you this story. So apparently I did, obviously.
Which
you didn't just like dream it up. It is true, but
hilarious. Well, not hilarious, but also I read that and I was like, oh man, this must have been the most jarring text in the world to get. Hey, Mike, can you talk to us on a podcast about that time you tried to kill yourself? What?
Like, I told you that? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oopsies.
So yeah, I mean, like, it's like literally almost 25 years ago, probably to around this time, right? Like, I was not in a good spot in my life with my mental health, and I'll kind of give some build up to that. But it was like a beautiful fall day. I'm living in Sacramento, California, and I just like taking that toothache analogy, like the pain had been building and building, and I'd been starting to like think about ways of just like ending this. Like, what is this? I don't want to deal with this anymore. This feels like too much. I don't feel like there's any value in life at this point. And I decided that I was gonna take my brother had a pistol, like a 9mm pistol, in his dresser. I was living with my brother in an apartment. We were both attending college, working and stuff like that. And so I said, today's the day. Like, this is it. So he wasn't there. He was at work. I was there. Got the gun, put it in my backpack, and we were living in this kind of sketchy apartment place in Sacramento, and it was right next to a business park. And this must have been a weekend because the business park was like just empty. And so I put this gun in my backpack, and I'm like, I know that it's going to be empty over there, and I don't want to like do this at home. That doesn't feel right for whatever reason. That was a thought in my head. So I walk over to this empty business park, and I never really thought of, like, suicide was never a thought in my head that I just sort of lived with as long as I can remember. It really wasn't. But the last weeks building up to this point, like, it had really entered my mind with a lot of force over and over. And again, it was just sort of that just sort of constant pain that was building and building and building. And it suddenly was like, this is a way to address that pain. So I wanted to end my life in a way that felt like, I don't know, this would provide minimal trauma to my family. I don't know that that's certainly not the case, but in my mind at the time, that was like, hey, I don't want to do this in my apartment, and like I just need to remove myself being a burden from them and from everyone else around me. So I went out to this empty parking lot, pulled out the gun, and I realized this part's really embarrassing to say. It's like, I don't really know how to operate a gun, right? I grew up with rifles, BB guns, 22 rifles, and things like that, plinking around. I didn't really understand that pistols aren't that difficult to handle, and so I spent a couple minutes like in frustration looking at this gun and trying to figure out like, what do I do here? Ended up sort of just breaking down in tears. Like, I was not in a sense of like relief, but more of like anguish and devastated that I had sort of failed even this. I had built up the courage, if you will, to like do this, to walk somewhere with this gun with the intent of pulling the trigger.
Was it self-deprecating grief? Like, I can't believe I can't figure out this gun, or was it frustration at the
No, it was real
situation?
frustration.
Like,
I remember just distraught in a very unironic way that like I couldn't do this even. Like, I was a failure, an abject failure at this even. And so at some point I just like put it away and walked back to the apartment and put the gun back. Never spoke about it with my brother, never spoke about it with anybody for a long time after that.
Does your brother even know what happened?
I know. I bet to this day, well, unless he watches this podcast, I bet to this day he doesn't. This was such a shameful thing for me, right? Like,
Hmm.
not, I didn't feel that in the moment, but it was like, you don't speak about this stuff. And honestly, in hindsight, right? Like, that's why I'm like glad to talk about this with you guys. Cause I think like talking about this is something that I didn't do at the time and it took a while to do. And it's like, I think if I'd talked about this and processed some of these feelings and gotten help, certainly I wouldn't have gotten to that point. I didn't do any of that. And so, yeah, it was really hard to have this sort of like, I don't know, stain in my life, if you will, even of like
Hmm.
what now. Yeah, I just felt like this shameful secret that I was like
It
going to do
sounds like
that.
a catch-22. Like you're embarrassed that you couldn't do it, and then you're embarrassed that you did try.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Very conflicting emotions around it, right? Like
Yeah.
hard to
Yeah.
Tough
process
spot to
for an
be.
18-year-old too.
I mean, there's a couple of things that kind of popped up for me while you're saying it. The first is that a lot of people, I think, in popular culture will say things like suicide is so selfish. You're being so selfish. It's not going to fix anything, and now we have to deal with it. And I'm like, you don't know what suicide tastes like. Suicide is not selfish. Suicide is desperation. So, I mean, even hearing you talk about it, you're like, okay, how do I do this so it impacts people the least? I don't want to do this at home. I know it's gonna be hard for my
Mm-hmm.
family. How can I mitigate that pain and suffering for them while also just I need to get this taken care of? And so, if you're in a suicidal place, if you're feeling down, first and foremost, if people say you're being selfish because you're being sad, they don't understand what they're talking about. And I think that's really important. And I want to take all the shame away from this of having thought about being dead, of having thought about how to do it, of having had a plan and then not being able to enact the plan. It's a lot. I can't imagine anyone being like, check this out, guys, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna do it. Like
Yeah.
it's not that at all.
And I'm wondering where is the win then? Is there a win? Coming out of it, you feel like a failure and shameful. Going into it, you feel like a failure and shameful. Do you feel like looking back on this that there was a win now that you've had some distance from the experience? I mean, is was there did you succeed in something during all
Hmm.
of this?
Yeah. I mean, look, this is definitely in hindsight, right? Like, I remember I had a teacher in high school that said, it was a biology teacher. I remember his name very well, Mr. Ray. And I remember him at some point, I don't know how the conversation came up, but I remember him saying at some point to our class that, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, something to that effect. And it's not, I know I've heard that before in other situations. It wasn't unique to him, but I thought, and I think that is true for sure in this case, right? Like, I'm really glad, of course, that like this wasn't successful. And for me, it was really sort of the rock bottom of this sort of distress and emotional sort of, or sort of just mental health crisis I was going through. And so, as I recall, so I'd sort of like built up sort of thinking ideation for all this couple of weeks leading up to this, sort of turned from like ideas of like, how do you do this to like, here's what a plan could look like. And again, I'm not like, it's not consuming my every moment, but these are like in the back, in the sort of monologue in your head that's building over time. That happens. I don't remember exactly what happened, but that's sort of in my mind of my journey. That was sort of like the rock bottom point where I continued to think about this. But that moment of like, sort of, I guess, let's call it what it is, courage, if you will, to act on some of that had passed,
Absolutely.
right? And so while I had the thoughts, the sort of bravery, courage to sort of do these actual actions, take these thoughts and translate them into actual actions, I'd sort of gotten past it. And so, yeah, I'm like obviously really glad that I failed at that and that it bought me more time to sort of like process through and start some of the healing from sort of being at that rock bottom spot.
It's interesting remembering what you told me and what you're saying now. Knowing now that you don't even remember telling me this, and that you mentioned there's someone else who like you told me this thing, and you were like, "What? When did I tell you this thing?" there are parts of the story you told me that you're leaving out, that I don't even know if you remember. And part of why it stuck in my head is because the way you told me the story initially, it wasn't that you couldn't figure the gun out, is that the gun was in your mouth and you pulled the trigger and it didn't fire. And that you took the gun out and you examined it and you're like, okay, I did it. I figured it out. You put it back in your mouth, pulled the trigger again, it didn't fire, and that's when you gave up. And the word courage is usually used in the context of what a brave soul. But I'm so glad you bring it up. Like, it takes real courage to do something so desperate. This is not a question of weakness. This is not a question of inability. This is a question of this. I'm so ready for this to be over. To put a gun in your mouth, pull it out, and put it back in, goodness gracious. Like, not to make this a compliment, but what fortitude it takes to to do that. And I'm so glad because I obviously I met you after this was over, and my life is better as a result. I was going back through my journal of when we were together as missionaries, and the way you impacted my life, and you are one of a few people, Mike, I should say, that told I have a conversation with you that is forever burned in my head where I remember the moment that it happened. And I remember it because I was in a really dark place. I wasn't as far down the road as you, but I was like, I would just like this all to be over. I'm so done with this. And you were doing your best to be good at what you were doing, and I clearly was struggling. We were walking down the street and you stopped, you turned around me, and I think what you said was, "Did I do something to offend you? Are you okay?" And it shook me, and that empathy that came out of that moment, the seed for that must have been planted with that gun. But the empathy that allowed you to connect to me through my darkness and pull me out in a human to human way, it really shifted something in my brain in a way that I don't think I've ever really gone back to what I was before. A feeling of loneliness, a feeling of separation, because you reached out through your pain to touch my pain. It was a really beautiful thing. So when we talk about bravery, we're talking about good things used in bad ways, but it is a good thing to be brave. It is a good thing to go through hard things that gives you a chance to reach out and connect with people, which is part of why this conversation is so important for people to have.
I would have to take exception with, well, not that approaching something scary like suicide and taking a
Mhm.
gun in your backpack is scary. I would think that whole experience, you're full of doubt and fear, and finally doing it and approaching something that you're scared of is bravery. But you're also brave in having to approach life and take another day. So it's rather
Absolutely.
like pick your poison, not that we're conflating bravery of suicide with the bravery of living. Both of them take quite a bit of fortitude. So I think it really is, which one do you care about? Or which one, it's pick it. You know,
Yeah.
pick one of them. Um,
Certainly, I think this kind of highlights the nuance of this conversation, how difficult it is to really get close and address it in a clean way, because it's not a clean experience or
yes,
topic.
there was a guy I worked with who put a rifle in his mouth, pulled the trigger, and the gun did not fire. And he pulled out the bullet, and the firing pin had impacted the primer in the back of the bullet, and it had a dimple in the back of the bullet, but it didn't go off. Like the bullet, for some reason, was a dud. It just didn't go off, and he carried it with him in his pocket. And he stopped after that one try. He stopped and he started crying, broke down, came to us for help. That highlights a characteristic of suicidality, which is attentional fixation. If you try one thing, you try it one thing, and it doesn't work, then you give up, you're a failure. I think that means attempting suicide is not about killing yourself. Otherwise, you'd be creative and try something else and like go to step 2 or something or other, because it's not about like the task is to kill yourself. The task is to escape the pain. And so you get this attentional fixation, these horse blinders on, I'm going to use this pistol and end it. And you try and you try and it doesn't work. Therefore you stop. Like the attentional fixation is a strange characteristic of suicidality, but it's definitely there, which I think basically means I'm not trying to kill myself. I just want to leave, kind of thing.
Looking for relief. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
curious, Mike, with your experience. So you try, you fail, you go home. What was it like for you to kind of readjust to, like, I guess I'm here?
I don't know that it was much of an adjustment because everything's so. I guess my mind is so much in the moment back then of like I'm just thinking through like what, like you said, it's like I'm just thinking of how do I end this pain I'm not thinking of like the beyond that too much. I am in some ways, right, of like my parent, like my family or things like that, but not in real depth. And so I don't think it was like, it didn't, for me, it wasn't a big shift. It was just like I was still thinking about this, still feeling pain, but I didn't have this, again, I hate to use the word, but it's like courage to sort of act on these things. Like my courage, thankfully, was more towards like continuing to sort of like wrestle with this in different ways. And so it was like this sort of like, I don't know, pretty traditional for me, I guess, arc of like you go, and I was at this very low, and then slowly things started getting better through changes. Um, Sadly, right? Like I think one of the things that didn't happen that could have was like, um, I didn't know where to get help, right? Which I feel like that's a miss for 25 years ago. I think it feels like there's a lot better resources. People are aware. And I think there's certainly lot less stigma around this topic, thankfully. Right. So people, I think, know how to like reach a hotline, talk about it. And but it's sort of, some of this was sort of like the context of the time, the context of, me being sort of in a new environment, being in a family that loved me tremendously, but like we were very sort of like, you don't talk about big emotions, and you sort of like you got to be stoic, and you just kind of like, you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and stuff like that. So I remember your question even now, Taylor, but I think it was like, I think it was like, it
It
was
was
very
clearly.
gradual. It wasn't like this, oh, now I'm like past that. I don't know, I didn't know what was past that, other than like I was still feeling pain, and it felt just as sharp as before, but I
Mm,
didn't act on that. And over time, that sort of the pain subsided bit by bit over several months to where it was manageable again. And,
mm.
but
That must have been a long several months.
Yeah,
it was a
several
long
months is a
several months
long
for
time.
sure. It was very dark feeling, right? And, there's a lot of external stressors, I think, that contributed to, as I've looked back on like, part of it's like, well, I need to learn from that for sure. So I understand myself
Mhm.
better, and how to avoid getting to that level of pain, right? Like I need to be able to help triage that. And there's a lot of stressors that happened at that moment, but a lot of it is why I talk about it now too, which is like ultimately what helped me, because I didn't realize there are therapists and help, and these different resources. Ultimately, what kind of pulled me out of it was like having a community of people around me again that like supported me and I talked with. And even if I wasn't able to ha- talk with them about deep emotions and struggles I was feeling, at least I felt some sense of value again. That was enough to
Mm.
kind of pull me along and keep me going and keep me wanting to, have the courage to kind of go another day until it became, let the pain dulled over time, right?
Some people will say that talking about it openly, like if you talk about suicide with your kids, you're kind of giving them the idea of it, or if even saying the word kind of plants the thought in people's head. So why do you think that there's value in talking about suicide openly, using the word, suicide? Why,
As
why is
opposed
that
to like
valuable for you?
what's happening on social media now, where people say unalived or
I don't.
checked
Yeah,
out or
though
off.
that
I mean,
word is censored. Like I don't even know if we can air this episode on certain platforms because we're so honest and open about it.
I don't, I don't even half give a crap about that.
Yeah.
It's going out.
No, I understand, but the cultural implications of like saying
Sure.
the word,
Yeah.
we're naming it. It's a big deal for a lot of people. So why is it important for you as somebody who's lived through it?
Yeah. I mean, I remember for a period of time, like, people are going to judge me for this, right? Like, what a weak thing, what a selfish thing. Are you seeking attention? Like, why, like, there's all these sort of negative thoughts that I had around how to be perceived talking about it. And so I was really reticent to do that for a while. Um, and, but the reality is just, it's a part of who I am. It's a part of it's a chapter in my life story. Like this happened. It doesn't have to define me though, but it has shaped me. And I I was at that point because I felt this pain and I felt really alone. And
Mm,
the reality of growing up and maturing is realizing that a lot of other people are also alone and also struggle, no matter
Mm.
what you see out there of like what people are projecting, and the confidence they have. Like people feel alone, and I had the courage, thankfully, to share with. I think on my mission, like that sort of like I was this is a hard thing to do, and I'm struggling through this, but I don't feel those feelings. Um, and for whatever reason, I guess I felt sort of inspired to share with certain people, and I shared with you, Taylor. I shared apparently with other people because again, I don't even remember like doing this
Mhm.
because it was like this. I think I shared with people there. I hadn't even shared with my parents, right, or other people close to me. Shared with people on my mission. I think because we were going through this shared, really difficult experience there. And then a couple of years ago, right? I think it was just 2 or 3 years ago. A person I was connected to from my mission reached out, and she was like, "Hey, I remember you telling me about this." Kind of like Taylor, what you said. You're like, "Hey, I want to talk about this because I think this topic's important." She was reaching out because she said, "Hey, I'm really struggling right now," and I remember receiving like a
Wow.
DM on Instagram, and I was like, "Hey, hold on, like let's talk and let's." And I reached out and we like went back and forth and we started texting and we talked on the phone. I think I can't remember if we even talked about it. Might have all been just sort of asynchronous texting, but like she reached out because I had shared this story of like being alone and being very vulnerable in this, like this sort of taboo subject. And it allowed her, I think, in some small way to help. I talked about my experience a little bit, and I shared like, hey, like, and I'm like, how can I help? I'm not a therapist, right? I'm not you guys. You guys are professionals. I just have my experience, but talking about it and people realizing like, hey, here's a person that I know who I think of in this way, but they went through difficult things. And so what can I learn from that? Or can I tap into that resource? Um, and not feel alone, at least, right?
Yeah. We talk about this idea of vulnerability as the glue of relationships. And when we say that vulnerability
Mhm.
is necessary, this is exactly what we're talking about. Because it was a very vulnerable moment for Mike that turned into a core part of his lived experience that led to connection with other people, that led to someone reaching out to him and sharing their vulnerability. And their vulnerabilities combined led to a protective measure that probably helped
Yeah.
this person. I don't know if this person would have acted on their suicidal thoughts, but at least they know they're not alone.
Yeah, I was thinking of what would Mike have done if some one of his friends in years past had told him like, yeah, I actually attempted, and in that moment you're in a business park with a pistol and you remember what Jimmy Joe had told you years ago, would you have reached out to him? And if those people didn't have you, would they have had anybody?
Yeah, I think that's when I look back at like, how did I get to that point? So I can not get to that point. Um, it was this, we just you didn't talk about it. And I haven't have those friends. And some of that was like, it was a different time. I feel like now everyone kind of bashes on technology for good reasons, but also like I'd moved away and this is pre cell phones, right? Like, and I didn't have the ability to like pick up the phone and call my buddy, but we also never talked about that. It was just not a thing you talked about, right? I think it would have tremendously helped me because I did just feel so alone. And I was like, the weight of this was fully on me. And I don't know what to do with it. I'm 18 years old and I've been taught you got to kind of persevere and grit through things and you should be stoic and don't be weak, and that was what I knew. But if I had friends, and I'm not shaming my friends, I love my friends, I'm good friends with a lot of them, but like we were all sort of in that same camp of like you just don't talk about these things. They might have experienced those things, right? um
Hmm.
and yeah, I think it would have changed things, right? I don't think I would have got, I mean, who knows, but I don't think I would have gotten to that same depth, right, of acting, trying to act on this. Like I think it would have been a help. That's why I think, I mean, that's part of why therapists exist too, right? To like talk through and help people process those things. It's a different kind of relationship, but the
Sure.
discussion, the support, the hey, you're not alone in this thing would have meant all the world to me because I felt so alone.
Yeah. I'm curious, when this person reached out to you, did you feel put upon that they were reaching out to you with this kind of sadness
Oh,
and
not at
depth?
all. Not at all. I felt like I want to help them. I'm
Hmm.
glad they reached out to me, and I'm not a
Yeah.
professional. And I was like, hey, I'm not a professional, right? Like you should seek professional help, but like talk to me about what you're like. What can I help you with? How can I call you? Can I talk to you? How are you feeling? What's going on in your life? And just trying to connect. And so I was grateful that she reached out to me, so we could have a
Yeah.
conversation. And I think, and to this day, like we stay in touch. And this is somebody that I knew from this time together and as a missionary for a church, but like didn't know all that well. And we have since like developed a friendship. you know? And so no, I'm like really grateful that she didn't feel put on. In fact, I remember I was traveling somewhere for work when I got that message, and I was like, I need to like act on this now. Like I need help. And so I was like, hey, I just was on a plane, call me, here's my number, let's talk.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was really like
Wow.
really glad that she reached out for sure. And that to me was like, that was a big catalyst for like, we just need to talk about this stuff more. Like this doesn't need to be a big stigma. It is nuanced, it is complicated. Like even like in the build of this, like we're joking about a lot of stuff. It's like, it's tough. This is tough stuff. Like this is a
It
tough
is.
thing.
Where was the vulnerability come from in like worst case scenario, the fear of what, like reaching out, I mean. Like what do you think she was afraid of reaching out to you? What would you have been afraid of if you wanted to talk about it with somebody else? What's the risk?
I mean, you have to show that like you've got. It's like any. I guess it's like I'm weak. I'm weak in this. Like I have
Oh
this
man,
weakness. We always
that's a hard mantra to repeat.
right. We always want to project that we're like we don't have weaknesses, right? It feels like, or at least I
Mm-hmm.
do, right? I'm not weak. I'm strong. I'm a man. I'm a father. But it's like when we're saying, hey, I'm hurting right now. Like you have to let down that guard. And so I think for her, it's probably like, will this person think I'm weak? Will this person say, hey, this isn't important to me and just not respond?
Mm-hmm.
Um, will this person think of me differently now and not value
Yeah.
me or
Oh
judge
yeah.
me? You know?
Yep.
I think you're kind of naming something, which is, I think a lot of people are afraid. If I talk to people who haven't had the training I've had, and they say, "Oh, my friend is suicidal. I don't know what to do." Yeah, you do. You just don't know the complicated, stupid technical terms for how you do it. You talk to them, you
Right.
listen to them, you show up. That's it. It's not a complicated thing. Please seek extra help as well, right? I'm not saying don't bother seeing a therapist because all I got to do is sit and talk. Blah, blah, blah. But what I am saying is that there's something about the isolationistic tendency of I'm at a place where I want to be dead that is addressed explicitly and specifically by sitting with somebody who can look in your eyes and saying, I am listening, I can hear you. That connection is one of the most powerful antidotes to suicidality. And it's what keeps people around. The people I've talked to who have wanted to commit suicide, who have tried to commit suicide, who have thought about it, every single one of them, without fail, when they think about why they haven't done it, it's because of a relationship they have with something or someone else.
Yeah.
Be it like, I got to know how my TV show ends, all the way to I could never do that to my mom. Everything in between. It's all about the connection you share with the world around you that keeps you grounded in it, that makes it worth fighting past the desire to leave it behind.
I had somebody who told me that the opposite of suicide for them was living, whatever that means for them, and it wasn't breathing. The opposite of suicide for them was like hiking and being with people, and like, we're approaching Thanksgiving, that kind of living, like actual living, because they found that when they were suicidal, they stopped living, and they were already behaviorally inactivated is the technical term, but they said I was already dead, and so to combat suicidality, I had to start living again.
Hmm.
That kind of thing.
That's interesting. I feel like that was part, like, as I was really depressed at this time, I had lost like all these things I enjoyed. I'd lost sort of desire in them, right? Like I was an athlete.
You want to know what the word for that is, the technical term, so you can be a douchebag about
Please
it?
enlighten
Yeah,
me. Yes.
presumptuous.
Educate me.
Yeah.
Anhedonia.
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 Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was
The
welcome.
feeling
anhedonic.
of being a bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great
Anhedonia is the
description for
feeling
it.
of not enjoying the things you used to enjoy.
Yep. That's what I felt.
Who knows
For
about
sure.
this, Mike?
What's that?
Who knows about this in your life right now?
Well, now the internet.
I
Well,
worked
the
up the
internet.
courage after I got back. So this has probably been 5 years after, to tell my parents one day of like, hey, I want you to know this time frame after I left home and went to school, I really struggled, and like I just want you to know, like this is kind of what happened, and so I shared that with them, shared it with my wife, and I don't know, and I've shared it with a handful of friends in the past, and then for a long period of time, I didn't share it with anybody. Because again, I think I went back into this spot of like, this could be like a career limiting thing I can do. Like, should I really
Oh,
talk about
that'd be
this?
interesting.
Is this like I'm early in my career and I need to be perceived as like
Oh,
somebody who can be relied on, and
yeah.
like this is again like the stigma of it kind of crept back into my life until a couple years ago. I sort of just got more confidence, I think, just in my ability to talk with it again openly. But I don't talk about it regularly.
Mhm.
Even though we're sitting here spending an hour talking about it, this is not something I talk. But I've shared it with colleagues at work at different times of like when it's appropriate to like talk with them.
It's interesting how we can go through life just assuming that the people we see are true to their persona that we've put on them. Like if I see my brother even posts pictures of his vacation to Thailand or something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my brother's doing so well. He's happy. He's, traveling the world. Everything is fine with my brother, not knowing that, he might have a second life that we don't know about. But we accept people's persona, especially at work. And so if you say, yeah, I've been depressed. Yeah, I've been suicidal. If you believe that other people are bright and shiny, then you would have a hard time saying that because I'm not bright and shiny anymore. But if you don't accept other people's personas and say, yeah, everybody is weak like I am at certain points of your life, and realize that everyone's human, then maybe you wouldn't have as much of a problem saying, yeah, I've been, rusty sometimes in my life, just like everyone else. What's the big deal?
I am curious, Mike. Do your kids know?
I knew you were going to ask me that. No, I was thinking about that leading up to this because I'm like, I've never talked that openly with my kids about it, and I think it should. And I think this is, if there's nothing else good from this podcast, for the one listener who listens to this, right? As you guys always do.
Yeah. I was going to add.
If nothing else, even if there's zero
this
listeners, I've found some courage. I need to talk to my kids about it. I feel like I need to ponder that more. But I feel like if I believe what I'm saying and sharing this, why wouldn't I share this? They're going to go into that same sort of very transitional, very turbulent stage of their life. My older boys, where understanding that their dad, who they see as a certain persona, was like that too. Hopefully that can help them, right? In some way. And we do talk openly about feelings, and I try to like express emotions, and we've talked about these things, but I haven't shared that experience, and I will, because I think it is
Yeah.
important.
I want to say real quick, just to name that. First and foremost, it makes sense to me you haven't. Second off, as a mental health professional, I'm not disappointed to hear that you haven't. Third, your kids have a pretty wide age range, right? I think you've
Yeah.
got a kid in elementary and a kid who's about to finish high school.
Yep. That's right.
And Pete can talk to this too. My kids I have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I don't know that kind of spread, but I do know that kids can start to tell what truth is, and kids don't need to be told the truth in the same way, which isn't to say that kids need to be lied to, but it is to say that important conversations can take place at age appropriate stages.
Yes. Like when my 6-year-old asks me sexual questions, I don't come up with things. I just say, if we wanted to have a real discussion about it, then I'd have a real discussion. I don't come up with like lies about where babies come from. I say, I don't think I'm going to have this conversation right now. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah.
Or something like that. You tell them the truth, even if it's not, even if you don't end up talking about it.
Even just to use that example, you still say like babies come because two people make babies. Babies come because people make babies.
Yes. Yeah. And then they look at you and mom and they're like, oh my gosh. And you're like, yeah. So if you're talking to your 6-year-old and they say, why do some people kill themselves? You don't say, well, I'm going to talk about this later, I guess.
You don't pull out the gun and be like, this is the safety that was in the age.
Yes, exactly.
Did you know that gunmetal has a very unique taste?
Oh my God.
Age appropriate. I got you.
I will say,
I feel like I'm chastised now on this. So Taylor,
no,
older kids, not my. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say when you said
I want you to enact it for your youngest child. Pull out a toy gun. Like, I did this.
Oh,
look me in the eye.
Look me in the eye. I was gonna say something when Taylor said that the gun planted a seed of empathy in you. I was like, oh, I'm glad it didn't plant anything else.
Oh,
I knew the dark jokes would come eventually.
Here we are.
Let me just say, the reason the dark jokes didn't come earlier is for two reasons. On my head, one, we've got a tight time frame. We're at 5 minutes left. Two is because I did not want to trivialize what Mike was saying, because like for all the dark humor in the world that we can and will access about this, the fact of the matter is Mike Dolloff, who is a stellar human being, almost killed himself. That deserves some real honest respect. And so I didn't want to disrespect the experience.
Yes.
I
appreciate you being willing to open up about this too, Mike. Really appreciate you.
Like I said, I think I've learned a lot from processing that over time, and I think I've learned I can help in small ways on this, right? So you guys get help professionally, but I think everybody, if you're in a spot where like I don't feel that, so what can I do? Then it's like see people, right? Connect with people, try to be kind to people. There are a lot of people who are lonely or they're hurting or sad. Like life is really difficult, and
Yeah.
you can have a positive impact, right? And I know that just as a from a human standpoint, I know that from a faith and religious standpoint, but it's like I see that as like a capital T truth. And this is one of those like I don't yeah, so see people, right? Like look for people. Like
Hmm.
I just love that there's like being conscious about this is a superpower. Being sharing gratitude is like a superpower. You guys have talked in other podcasts about all these topics. I think are like related to this. Like I think this the intersection of like masculinity and suicidality and like the power of gratitude, like all these things. Like
Yeah.
these things are all sort of intertwined. But if you're feeling these things, like I hope that you've got to connect. Like there are resources, right? There are, and hopefully we as friends and part of a community and fabric of people across whatever sphere you're in can be a part of helping people who are feeling these things to process that and like get help with that. I know that would have made all the difference for me, for
Yeah.
sure.
I'm curious if you could go back in time, if you could talk to yourself then, and in doing so, if we're being perfectly honest, talk to somebody else who is there now,
Mhm.
what do you tell them?
I think, I think maybe it's just listening to them and trying to seeking to understand them. I don't know if there's much to tell as much as like to listen and just like
Hmm.
I'm here for you. I want to listen to you, and just just trying to help somebody feel like they're not completely like a bowl of oatmeal or alone as like this unseen, invisible person in this busy world around you. So however you can do that by listening to them, by showing up for them, by sitting with them, by texting with them, just that. I don't know that there's anything, you know, like nothing rational would have made a difference to me, right? But like somebody just showing they loved me
Oh,
and putting their arm around me virtually or literally would have made all the difference, I think.
I
that
love that you
that
named the
is so
difference there.
powerful. Yep. It's nothing logical would have made a difference to me. And so many times people try to say you have so much to live for or something like
That was
logical, and
never the
it
question.
it doesn't. Yeah, that's not it. It's not it. It's the visceral inside my soul connection that will make a difference. Not don't try
Yes.
to talk me out of it. That oh man, that's exactly
Yes.
it. Taylor has a theory about emotion being the most being the
I
fuel
do.
of
I
behavior.
do. So, again, I'm so sorry I got the time wrong, and I
Oh, it's okay.
cannot thank you enough
Yeah,
for
thank
doing
you,
this,
Mike.
Mike.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Hopefully, I mean, this is a tough topic, so I'm glad that you guys are talking about it. I love
You're a tough guy.
I love the concept of the podcast you guys do in bringing up sort of things like this. Some of them are light and jovial and fun, and some of them are tougher, but I think it's an important one. So glad to be part of it.
I've
Happy to share my story.
Yeah. Thank
Thank you,
you,
Mike.
man. I think that looking hard things in the eye is the secret to getting through hard things.
I agreed. Thank you, guys.
Well, Mike,
All
if
right.
you ever
Well,
want to
take
come
it easy,
back, let
Mike.
us know, and we'll say no because we don't like you.
I know that'd be
He's
the
our
case.
listener. Taylor, no, he's our
He's the one
listener.
You're
listener.
alienating the
Yeah.
one podcast listener. Okay.
Dang it. Mike, love you to death so much, man.
I
Thanks
love
again.
both you guys.
See
Thanks
ya.
for having me on. Take care.
You take care, boss.
Bye bye.
As we talked to Mike, you brought up a certain point that I thought was important. I bring up constantly with my clients is, and I think it surprises people, and you mentioned it, when they say suicidal thoughts or they mark a 3 on number 9 of the PHQ-9, which
You
is like, have
nerd.
you, yeah, they're having suicidal thoughts. And you say, "Oh, I noticed you had this. Tell me about that." And you're not freaking out. It kind of takes people aback because they assume that they immediately go to inpatient care, or
Or
like
the loony bin, as they like
the
to put it.
loony, yeah, yeah, or that you're going to like press some button and guys are going to come in and like
Just
make sure that
parachute
they're
out of the
okay.
ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Like saying you have suicidal thoughts doesn't do anything, especially in a therapy office. You're saying I'm having suicidal thoughts. Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
What would you have for lunch?
Well,
Like,
hopefully that's not what we say. You're suicidal too. We have so much in common.
no,
Not what a person wants to hear from a therapist
no.
in that
What
moment.
suicidal thoughts are different though. Suicidal thoughts just means you're thinking about it. I came out of a office once and passed a running Porsche outside my office. I think I might have mentioned this before. And in my mind, I see the running Porsche and I'm walking towards my dilapidated Kia Soul. And I think to myself where I would take the Kia Porsche, how I would get the license plates changed, how long I could have it, and where I could dump it. And I thinking all of that
Jeez.
as I'm sitting in my car. So
Pete the sociopath here.
right, that yeah, everyone has everything. So I'm sitting in my Kia Soul having thoughts of theft, Grand Theft Auto. And did I act on them? No. And do I condemn myself for having those thoughts? No.
And the likelihood of you specifically stealing that car is pretty minimal.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I want to kind of keep going with this, which is Pete is absolutely right. I've had people, my range of people talking to me about suicide has gone from the low end, which is sometimes I would just like to not be here. I don't want to die. I'd just be nice if this could all stop. And that goes from there all the way to people who've walked into my office with a bag of pills and a straight razor. And they said to me point blank, my plan is to walk out of here and kill myself. So I have literally looked this in the eye. Pete has literally looked this in the eye. Mike has tasted it literally. This is kind of what we do. So it doesn't freak us out. And I think there's levels, gradations to this, right? The low end of this is if someone says, I would like to not be alive anymore. It doesn't scare me. I just go, okay, tell me more. Tell me what that's all about. The next level of that is if they say, I'm not saying I have a plan, but if I were to kill myself, I would do it in the following way. Then I go okay, well, let's just check in on this, make sure that it's not a plan, it's more of a deliberate fantasy. And then I keep that in my head as a very real touch point that I come back to because you don't ever want to just brush it aside. And then when people say, hey, as in my case, here are the pills, here's the knife, 15 minutes from now, I'm dead. That is when you start taking it very seriously.
You have thoughts and a plan and intent.
Yes. All those things need to be active before we start talking about hospitalization.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had those, and it does come as a shock to people where you're like, okay, you have thoughts and you have a plan, and they're terrified and they don't want to do it. They have never thought about it. They don't know where these plans are coming from. It's just been so much pain that the plan of how to end the pain has started to formulate in their head, and they have no intent whatsoever. And I'm like, okay, well, let's come up with a safety plan. And what is your plan? Oh, well, I'm going to use my gun. Okay, do you want a trigger lock? Would a trigger lock help? Because it's been shown that getting any distance from the plan helps. You either get a trigger lock, give the gun to someone else, what can we do with your pills? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they get this immense relief from oh my gosh, I have this plan and I really don't want it to happen. And now the plan is kind of diffused and they feel better. So
they feel not alone. Yeah.
Not alone. Yeah. So they have thoughts, they have plan, they have no intent whatsoever. And that's still workable.
Yeah. I haven't really told this story to a lot of people. This is not about me. Well, I'm an active participant in the story, but I'm not the suicidal person in the story. And I say this, when this story happened, this was maybe 2 years ago. I had been a therapist for over a decade at this point. And so just to somebody came to my house, a friend that I knew very well, and I knew he was in a bad place. And he came and it was 12:30 in the morning. And the fact that he called and asked to come over, can I stay the night at your place? Yeah, of course. I knew he was going through a pretty ugly divorce at the time and some bad custody battles. So he came in, he sat down. I just had this feeling. And after a few minutes, I was like, hey, man, I have to ask, do you seem like you're thinking about killing yourself? And he said, I am. I said, okay, do you have a plan? And he got real quiet. And he said, yeah, I do. I said, do you have the plan here? And he got real quiet. And he said, yeah, my pistol's in the car. And so I said, okay, I need you to give me your gun because I need you to be safe. And in that moment, I felt really scared. And I'm not saying that to do anything other than to say, this is a scary thing to hear from people, even when you're a trained professional. but he's alive and well right now. He made it through the divorce hearings. He's got custody figured out. I had his gun. I actually, he gave me the gun. He had 2 clips fully loaded. He had some pretty serious intent, and he knew how to work his weapon for sure. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who had a gun safe, and I kept his gun in my friend's gun safe for months until I knew that my other friend was safe. And my friend who kept the gun he'd never met him, couldn't have picked him out of a crowd, but uh, we were able to access a form of community that lifted him up while he was in that dark place. Um, he made it
So
through.
important to ask that question. So important because it's like I can imagine the fear that you have in
Mm-hmm.
being vulnerable if someone asks, like, are you having a hard time? And you don't want to lie, and yet you don't want to share. And so here
Yeah,
you are stuck and like, am I going to be weak in that moment right then?
yeah.
Am I
And I'm
going to
so glad he
choose
was.
weakness? Yes. I shouldn't say
Please
weakness,
be weak.
vulnerability. I'm
Vulnerable.
going to
Well,
choose
yeah,
vulnerability.
absolutely. And I want to just really, on top of that, too, say I was scared. And so I was able to reach out for help as I helped. And that got me through
Oh,
when I was scared. And so all of this, the idea that it is like at some point we've got to stop, you know, telling people to just get through this, to just deal with it. I got that guy's gun. I put him to bed. I gave him a bed to sleep in. And then I spent the rest of the night worried. And I called people and I asked for help. And we got through it. But it's because that started a chain reaction of people reaching out to people. Um, I wasn't upset that he told me. I wasn't mad at him for putting me in that situation. I was scared because I wasn't expecting
yeah.
it and I had to act fast. And
Well, you
that's
knew
okay.
too. You knew talking and reaching out helps. I think some people think there's a catch-22 of, if I ask, will it make it worse? Well, I have to ask to make it better. And so they're bound
Hmm.
by this, like, crap, we're not going to talk about it because I might make it worse, but I have to ask in order to know to keep him safe.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I hate to do this, but in 2014, these researchers, the title of their book was, Does Asking About Suicide and Related Behaviors Induce Suicidal Ideation? What's the evidence?
Hmm.
13 studies over 12 years revealed that multiple age groups and demographics, asking all of them in over 12 years, none of them found a statistically significant increase in suicidal ideation among participants when asked about suicidal thoughts. In fact, those studies suggested acknowledging and talking about suicide may in fact reduce rather than increase suicidal ideation.
Freaking take that, social media, with your stupid censoring of the word. That kills me. Just a little quick
Exactly.
rant. Why on earth do we have an epidemic of male loneliness? We have an epidemic of
Yeah.
female loneliness. Everybody's lonely. We have an epidemic of people wanting to kill themselves, even if the numbers aren't drastically up or down relative to a different period of time. Who cares?
So we can't say the
We
word kill or suicide on certain
Exactly.
platforms. Yeah.
Like we need to be able to talk about this point blank because if we can't talk about it directly, then people are going to find ways to not talk about it. And they find ways to not talk about it, but they find ways to act on it. And that is a real problem. We
Yeah,
need to be
that's
able to look this in the eye. We
bad
have
juju.
to be able to look it in the eye. I get off my soapbox
Exactly.
now.
No, exactly. Censoring the language around it censors the issue, which
Yeah, I mean, you
doesn't
said
help.
earlier, like, are we going to be deplatformed because we talk about suicide? And one, I don't think so because we cheated and have credentials, right? Like
Ah, yeah.
we're not just Joe Blow and Pete McGee. I'm
I
Pete
like
McGee, by the way.
I like that one. I think
Joe
I'll
Blow,
stick
Pete
with Pete
McGee.
McGee.
All right. But I think there's that, and we're also not trying to sensationalize or anything. We're explicitly talking about what to do. And there are people who say, like, I'm feeling suicidal, and nope, you can't talk about that. Obviously there's nuance to this, and there are times when people are using it in an inappropriate way, but I don't think blanket censorship is the answer in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, yeah. People do flippantly say, "Oh, I would kill myself," but um, it's not helpful. Doesn't
Yeah.
explore the topic. They just say it.
Yeah, and I can hear people being like, "Well, what about that kid who killed himself after talking to ChatGPT about it?" Well, there's a difference because ChatGPT one didn't. There's no human experience behind it, no context of.
Yeah.
I mean, ChatGPT will lose the thread the longer the conversation goes, and so the kid started out talking about suicidality, and then like after an hour or two of conversation goes, here's the weight. How much does this weight hold so I can hang myself? But ChatGPT isn't going, this is a conversation about suicide. ChatGPT is erased that part to make sure that it has memory for the rest of the conversation. It's like, oh, that will hold this amount of weight. And so this is why talking to
Right.
AI, for example, is a bad idea.
Well,
when
I
it
mean,
comes
the
to this.
technical aspects of ChatGPT might change, but I think even if it was a perfect AI system, it still lacks human connection. The anonymity of the internet is dangerous, and I think the inhumanity of ChatGPT is also dangerous.
It can be, sure.
Because
They're
you
useful for
lose.
some stuff, but not humanity.
Yeah, you can put on a mask. Anybody who wears a mask anywhere can do awful things. Man, what was the Harvard prison experiment? Or was that the
Oh, the Stanford.
Stanford prison experiment? They said arbitrarily these college students are guards and these college students are prisoners. And the guards wore sunglasses, actually unbeknownst to the researchers. I don't think the researchers even gave them sunglasses. I'll have to check that. Anyway, the point is the people who identified as guards could hide behind whatever facade they wanted, and they had to end the experiment early because there was mistreatment going on.
Yeah, not
People,
just like slight mistreatment. We're talking like real danger to people because of the
yeah,
anonymity that they're allowed to, which is, I suppose neither here nor there necessarily about suicide, but at the same time, in terms of like talking about taking away the interpersonal dynamic makes bad decision making so much
yes.
easier.
If the guards all had to introduce themselves by their first names to every prisoner they met, and said, "Hello, my name is John. Hello, my name
Hmm.
is Dale," would that have removed the anonymity and therefore the behavior would have changed in the Stanford prison experiment?
Cough,
I don't
cough,
know.
ice, cough, cough, mass
Oh
deportation,
my
cough,
gosh.
cough, dehumanization of people, cough, cough, etc.
Dehumanization, that's what we're talking about. And so on suicidality, when you talk about something and you use your name and you use the words and it's your face talking to another human face,
Hmm.
that is something totally different than the anonymity and inhumanity of the
This is
internet.
a really dumb example of this, but because I'm a
Yes.
nerd,
Okay.
hooray, really dumb. So people make fun of Star Wars because the stormtroopers can't shoot the broadside of a barn, right?
Right.
But the stormtroopers just get like you point a gun at them and they get shot automatically. There's actually been some science behind that that shows that the
Really?
reason for that is because the stormtroopers are wearing masks and are therefore depersonalized, but they're shooting at people they can see their faces, and so they get scared and don't shoot as straight.
No way. That totally
There you
makes sense
go.
because you're shooting at
George
Luke,
Lucas
who's a
dropping the
human.
science.
I'm sure he did that on purpose.
Yeah, but I mean, like even look at the TV shows around it. The stormtroopers you care about are the ones whose masks come off. Look at Finn in
That's true.
the new trilogy. He took his mask off and became a character. It's the
Yep.
differentiation. It's that humanity, that
You
human
become a human
connection.
again. I think it is so important. Maybe that's what the crux of all this is in treating your own and dealing with other people's suicide. It's a terrifying thing, but it really is just about seeing the humanity, letting yourself be vulnerable to someone else and accepting someone else's vulnerability. Um,
Yeah, and maybe
eyeball
we
to
should
eyeball thing.
name this a little bit too. If someone listening to this doesn't know what to do and they want to reach out to us, one, please do. Two, please understand we will refer you to somebody who can immediately help you. You know,
Yeah.
we're not afraid of these conversations, and because we view this as like an issue that needs to be addressed. If you were to reach out to us, we'd be happy to hear from you, and we'll point you in directions that will be helpful. But we cannot, just for licensing reasons, we can't guarantee we can be the people to help you
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
explicitly, specifically, day in day out.
Yeah. We're only licensed in certain states. I don't know where
Hmm.
you're writing from, but if you have thoughts about suicide, your experiences, or what we've talked about today, please email us at emotionalmenpc@gmail.com.
Yeah, and more than anything else, you're not alone. The easiest place to be is the one that you make up for yourself. And a lot of people will make up a world in which they're alone. Nobody can connect with me. No one could understand. I've been doing this job long enough. Pete's been doing this job long enough that it's very rare for someone to have a unique story that doesn't have any connection point. You're not
Mm.
alone. You're just not. And even if I don't understand the physical lived experience, I am not afraid to sit with you until I can.
Yeah. The exploration might be hard, but man, it is relieving.
Yes. Yes,
Right.
it is.
I don't know if it's right to say I enjoyed this conversation.
I did too.
But I think it was kind of like exploring a cave, and now coming out of it, I see the colors and the lights. It was a good conversation. I
It
appreciate
was. And
that.
I said this a lot, but I love Mike Dolloff so much. I wasn't joking when I said I will never forget that conversation because he connected with me as a human being when I felt so alone. In that moment, really, something big shifted for me in that moment. And I truly believe that part of why he was able to do it is because of his experience with suicidality.
Yeah,
When you've been that kind of alone, you can smell it on someone else.
man, what amazing access to that guy. He had such his perspective. I was also going to ask him about now in his life when he feels down, he knows the difference between down and suicidal. The extremes of his experience has led him to be
Mhm.
like, this is bad, but it's not that bad. That kind of thing.
Yeah, the perspective building that comes from this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Wonderful guy though. Wonderful conversation with him.
Oh yeah.
Appreciated
Yeah, and
talking
I
to him.
cannot believe I got the time wrong. Oh my gosh.
No,
Truly horrified when I realized I made that mistake. I felt so awful.
oh, he asked me if he could give you crap about it, and I said, "Please do. He deserves more humility." And he didn't. Mike didn't. He didn't ream you at all. So apparently he knows you better than I do. But man, I was kind of expecting him to go off, but he didn't. Gosh dang it! So
I I'm I wish he had because I'm sure he could have really roasted me good. And
yeah.
if I'm being here perfectly vulnerable and honest here, if he had, it would have really shut me down because I felt so bad.
Oh no.
I felt so bad.
That's
This
right.
is like
Well, now we
a
know
thing
how
about me.
seriously you take this podcast. That's fine. I just needed
It's
some
not the
perspective.
podcast. Screw the podcast. It's about Mike. You mean nothing to me, Pete. You're
Okay,
just
good.
like
That's what I mean. This
you're
perspective.
yeah, you're a little bald guy who whatever.
Yeah. Well, love you too, Taylor.
See you later, Pete.
Bye.
Real quick, actually, I'm not going to end it there. I need to say this. I need to say
We're all
this.
set to end it.
I know, but I just want to really quickly say I care so deeply for you, Pete. You're one of my favorite people on earth. And even
Oh.
just joking that I don't care about you makes me feel like a gross person inside. So, Pete, look at your camera straight away, or look at the screen straight away so you can see me looking into my camera so I can look you in the eye. Pete, I love you to death. You're one of my favorite people, and I can't thank you enough for doing this with me.
Oh man.
All right. See you later.
Wonderful experience.
Bye.
All right, bye.